Hi guys, welcome to the second episode of our Vue Storefront webcast. Today I'm gonna show you how to install Vue Storefront and run it locally for the further development. Okay, so the process is pretty straightforward because we have interactive installer. So what you need to do is just to clone the repository. So go to GitHub, take the Git URL from here and just clone it. Of course, you have to have Git command installed on your computer, which is default on Mac OS X and Linux environments. So I'm just typing git clone, the repository address and some local folder. Let's name it Vue Storefront. Okay. Okay, right now I have the source code cloned into Vue Storefront directory. I'm going there. So cd Vue Storefront. Yeah, looks good. Now I have to install all the Node npm dependencies. What is need to be mentioned here is that Vue Storefront requires Node in the version later than 8.x. So my Node version is 8.9, which is good. So to install the dependencies, just type npm install. The installer is going through the directory structure because each separate team, each extension can have separate package.json file with their own dependencies. So it's installing all of them. It can take a while. There is quite a lot of modules. In the meantime, you can just give us a star. We are aiming at 1000, so pretty close. Oh, nice. Phantom.js is used for unit tests. Okay, it's going. Okay, here we have it. It took like 75 seconds, not so bad. So after the dependencies are installed, you can just run our node-based installer. To do so, just type npm run installer. Okay. So here we have the first question. Would you like to use demo Vue Storefront IO as the backend? Basically, you almost always will answer to this question no. If you answer yes, then the Vue Storefront API application, which is the backend for Vue Storefront, want to be installed on your computer, but still you can work with the front end using demo Vue Storefront as a backend here, but you won't be able to integrate it with your Magento instance or to play with the database. So basically, this is not something that is good for us. So I answer no. To install the backend locally, the installer needs to have the Git. So you should provide the Git path here. The default is Git, which works in 99% of cases, and then you have to enter the local path to install the backend application. Vue Storefront API is another GitHub project. As you probably already know, is our REST services API that is the engine for the data for Vue Storefront. So we need to have it locally to play with the API endpoints and data. So the installer will just clone this repository to the folder you provide here. So I will keep the default, like parent folder Vue Storefront API. And then you can choose the path for the images endpoint. It works like when you synchronize the database with Magento, you get the relative paths for the product images, and the images endpoint is doing all the work related to the resizers, adjusting the images format to the one used by Vue Storefront. Here I will keep the demo Vue Storefront IO. To have it locally, you can of course install it locally, but you have to have image magic command. This is basically the only dependency here, but this doesn't matter for this tutorial. Okay, so now the installer is doing the work. So first it's creating the log files, then it's cloning from the Git the Vue Storefront API. Now it's installing the npm dependencies for the Vue Storefront API. So it's like npm install, it can take a while. The installer is in charge of creating the configs, of setting up the database, all this kind of stuff. I will show you where the default database is stored. It can be useful. So when the installer will be restoring the demo database, it's just restoring the JSON file stored here in the var catalog JSON. So you can very easily dump the database to this format. I will show you how after the installation, and use it for some for playing with the Elasticsearch. Okay. Now the config files has been created using all the data you provide during the installation process, and we are starting the Docker in the background. This is also very important thing, that you should have a Docker command available, so you should have Docker installed, because Vue Storefront API uses Redis and Elasticsearch, and we provide you with the Docker file for these two services, and installer is just setting them up. So you don't have to install Elasticsearch or Redis manually. It will be run by the Docker instance and set up by this installer. So it seems like the Docker is working pretty well, because we were able to start the data restoration process from this var catalog JSON file. Then we run the migrations. Migrations are to update the data formats, import new entities between the between Vue Storefront releases. So we can, like in Magento, create a migration to add another table in Elasticsearch and so on. Now we clone the Magento to sample data, so the images and assets for the Luma demo catalog of the products. And now we are just running the creating the config and running the Vue Storefront API application. So it's like npm run dev inside the catalogs of the apps. So it will take a while, and we will have the app up and running. It's pretty boring and pretty easy process. We are using Webpack for compilation. So right now the Webpack is creating the bundles for the old JavaScripts, and we are done. The software is up and running. As you can see, the storefront is running on this address and the backend, so the Vue Storefront API on the another. So I believe we can check if everything went just fine. So I will just run the provided address. Okay, so it's compiling. The npm run dev compiles the bundles, the webpack bundles, each time you change any source file. Of course, this is the first run, so it have to do this job for the first time. So we need to wait like 30 seconds or so, depends on your computer. Come on. Wow. It's working. So yeah, it's good. It is good. Seems like it's working just fine. Okay, so let's take a look how to do some modifications in the source code when you have it installed. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. So here is the structure. The installer generated the local JSON files using the default JSON as a base. So here we have data provided during the installation process. As you may see, we have this demo as images backend because this is what we choose. Some other config variables that I just skip right now. And you can start playing with this. So here you have core, the part of the application you probably won't like to modify, and you have the source folder, which is just for you. You can modify each file here and still be able to update the application. So you can take a look at the example of the extension. A custom extension is an example how you can add your own extensions. You just need to put the extension name here in the local JSON config, so registered extensions, and then you just copy this folder like custom extension, add your own, so you can register some event handlers here. For example, if you like to do something on the product page, you can bind to product after single, and so on and so on. You can add your routes, you can add your stores. It's pretty straightforward. The second thing you can customize are, of course, the themes. So here is the default theme, the one that is installed by the standard. So you can just went through the files here and modify some components, add some stuff, remove some other stuff, and so on. You can have your own Webpack config within the themes, which is great because you can add resources, add some plugins, and some build steps. And basically that's all. So after you modify any file, the local instance will recompile and show you the changes you provided. Okay, thanks.